Okay, so I'm assuming that we are live. So basically, I wanted to bring developers together. Right now, we have two developers, Hicham and Allan. Allan created a lot of, the developer, he has helped a lot of developers inside of the uh, Stack Overflow and also the Google Home. I'm sorry, Google Assistant um, form. So, how about we just start off and introduce ourselves, and then we, start talking about, the things that we said that we're going to talk about. Okay, go ahead, Allan.
So hi there, my name's Allan Firstenberg. I am a developer consultant. So professionally, what I do a lot of is helping companies understand how to use new technology better. And increasingly, I've got more and more clients that are interested in how to use tools like Alexa and Google Home and the Assistant in general as part of what they're doing. But I am also what Google refers to as a Google developer expert for the Assistant. So part of my role is to help developers learn how to use these tools. Mm-hmm. Help developers, do new and interesting things, and kind of represent them to Google and represent Google to them. So I act as a middleman in some ways to help people, to help developers. It's a very crucial part of what I do is to be part of the developer community.
Gotcha. Hicham?
Hello, everybody. So Hicham here. I'm the co-founder of Smartly.AI, which is a company that helps brands to leverage voice to better serve their customers. And we were doing that manually. We have done a lot of custom services, but right now we are also providing with a software, with a product. So basically, we are providing a platform that allows people to develop their app once and deploy it on all the voice platforms.
That's so a little bit later we will get into the presentation of that, and I have a lot of questions about that part, about different platforms and so forth. First off, like if anybody is listening, if you guys want to join in, feel free to join in. You can either be a watcher or a doer type of thing. Feel free to join in, and also we have a chat going on.
So Marcellus, we've already got some questions for a chat, but why don't you tell us about yourself first?
Yes. So I am Marcellus Pelcher. I develop actions on Google applications. I work at Google, but I wanted to make sure that people understand that this is not an official actions on Google from Google event. I put this on myself because I'm interested in it myself. So I developed 6 applications so far last year, and I really do feel that voice is the future. Well, I probably shouldn't say the future, but it's part of the future. I think that people will be talking to their devices, more and more in the future. And I wanted, like in my career, I wanted to position myself to take advantage of this and also to be in the forefront, because I feel that even though some people argue that we are not in the early days, but I really think that we're still in the early days. And there's a lot of features that will be coming out that will make things a whole lot more smoother for the interactions. And a lot of brands that are not on, the platform will be wanting to be on the platform. So hopefully that, answers some of the questions about myself.
Okay. So we're still getting our feet wet with some of this.
I
think you want Hicham to be unpresented.
Yes. Ooh, sorry. Yeah. This is my first time Sorry, this is my first time doing a live broadcast, so things will be a little iffy. So, and I'm the type of person that like I dive in. Like if I don't get it correctly the first time, the second time I probably will get it, or the third time I'll get it correctly. But yeah, thanks, Allan, for pointing that out.
I'd also say don't fix a presenter. Just let it flow to whoever is talking at the time.
I'm not for sure if I can do that.
You're the only one that can.
Yeah, but
anyway, while you figured that out,
okay.
We already had a couple of questions. The first was from Arthur, asking if I get paid for what I do with Google. The answer is no. They don't write my salary. They don't send me a paycheck. I do get, as a GDE, we do get some bonuses. Let's put it that way. So it's things in terms of when I go to speak about the assistant. Sometimes they will sponsor that travel. We do have an annual conference that we go to, that we attend, which they pay for. There are other things along those lines, but no, I don't receive any direct compensation from Google for this, for what I do. And that's important to make clear, that I do this, and I think all of us do this because we like the platform. We love this platform. We want to see it grow, and that's why we're helping. That's why we're talking to the developer community like this.
Yes, exactly. So, like for me, I would be doing this regardless if I was working at Google or was not working at Google. This is something that I'm passionate about, and like throughout when I grew up, I saw Star Trek where Gordy was talking to the computer and saying, "Hey, play me a song," and can it be something jazzy, and can it be more upbeat? And I'm like, my mind was like blown. I'm like, I want to create that, right? And seeing like on the Voyager where Biana Torres, I think her name was, where she was like programming a computer with her voice. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is like the future. So I've been like wanting to, work with voice for a while, and it finally reached that point where it is somewhat feasible, right? I wouldn't say that, it's perfect right now, but it's somewhat feasible. And what my plan is to learn it, do whatever I can to be part of this future. So how about one of the things I wanted to do is present some topics, and we go around and, talk about them. And we may be having someone joining soon, some more people. But yeah, since the people that we have now, I will present some topics, and we can go over and talk about them. One of the things is that, in somewhat to dovetail into what you were talking about, Allan, is how are people making money in the field, and how are people trying to make money in the field? Because I think a lot of times people are getting into this field and they're like, where are the jobs? So like, where, what can I do? And one of the things two things that I see is that people are either consulting, right, for companies, for big brands, or second is making tools, right, which is like the Smartly.AI or the Dashbot of the world, or the those add-ons type of things. So yeah, go ahead and Hicham, like if you can like speak on like what made you want to go to the Smartly, more the tools route versus the consulting and so forth. If you can like expand on that, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. So at Smartly.AI, we are in the first category you described. So we are offering services, professional services to brands, and it's quite hard, even as a tool. It's quite hard to make money today. To be honest, because because the developers themselves are struggling to make money. So they can't pay if they don't generate enough revenue. So sometimes they struggle to pay their cloud services. They can't pay for Amazon Web Services or for Google or whatever cloud they are using. So we started with by offering developers for tools, and we switched for enterprise software, and now we are more B2B. We are offering solutions for brands to monitor and improve their apps through all the life cycle. Amazon is throwing some money right now on some game developers. You surely know that. But it's not something that is very like predictable for developers. So it's early days also. So it's early days technically. It's also early days in the business model. So everybody is trying to figure out the right use case and to have some action, and then they will figure out how to make money.
Yeah, exactly. So, Allan, so for you, you were more from the, you were already doing this already, right? And they were interested in voice, and you somewhat like segued into this.
I actually come at this from a very, very strange background. I became, I became enamored with the assistant based on the work that I was doing with Google Glass. So that's what got me interested, and I had the same passion that you did. I've watched Star Trek for decades.
Yes,
and this was it. We could finally do this. And I pretty quickly saw the assistant as the next generation of what we were trying to do with Glass. So I had clients that were interested back when Glass had started to become a thing. And some of that has carried over, and some of it's carried over in a very different direction now.
Yeah.
Because they see where the potential is going. They're also enamored with it for the same reasons.
Yeah.
But I came into this very much for the same reasons I got into Glass, because I saw it as a new media to develop for. And I wasn't in on the ground floor of mobile. I was in on the ground floor of web.
Yes.
And I saw what both of those did and how those changed things. And I wanted to be on the ground floor of this.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm interested in, how I see that you're a Glass fan, right? Just by looking at you with your glasses on now. So how do you see the future with Glass and the assistant working together? Do you see that being a big play in the future?
Oh, absolutely. Let's put it this way. I think part of the reason why we haven't seen a new version of Glass is because they're working on integrating the assistant with it. A lot of the things that we're seeing now with the assistant are things that we did with Glass 4 years ago.
Okay.
That we first started seeing then. The whole hot word triggering, the whole way to do voice invocations and the responses that we get, the dual modes using both voice and visual and some touch controls.
Yes.
All of that was pioneered with Glass. So I fully expect it to come full circle, that we'll have the assistant back on Glass. Soon, I hope. This year would be nice.
Yes. Yeah. I try not to peek behind the curtain too much, so I can just have conversations with you guys without having to have in the back of the mind, I can't say this or can't say that. Right. So, I know just as much as you guys know about glass. So cool,
But,
cool. So one of the things I'm interested in, which probably Hicham probably can talk about a little bit more, is like the differences that you guys have seen between Alexa platform and the Google Assistant, and what you like and what you dislike.
Between what?
But between the Google Assistant and the Echo platform.
Okay. Okay. And what we like and what we didn't like.
Yeah.
So yeah, first I can start with what I liked is that you gave us the luxury of having the user request.
Yes.
And this is absolutely a great move because it helps developers to improve their apps, to improve their models, to improve the understanding of the voice app. So this is something I'm praying that will happen also in the Amazon platform, Alexa platform. But frankly, I was totally astonished, impressed by the execution of Google on towards voice. Given that there are more than 2 years of reign of supremacy of Alexa, and now you are running head to head, and we see that geographically, at least, Google Assistant is present on more countries. So this is very impressed. This is very something that we can say hats off on it. Technically, I don't see huge differences on both platforms. Assistant is here in France right now, and we have a lot of support from the Google team. We are super happy with that.
Yeah.
Certification process is going very fast. It's just now a question of market penetration. There is a lot of questions among people on the fact that Google Home or Google Mini are really some must-have products or just some gadgets.
Yeah. And you guys are familiar with like the Gartner hype cycle, right?
Yeah.
And like one of the questions, and we can get into that, a little bit later, but one of the questions is that, where are we on that cycle? Because like, is it just a fad, or is this something that's going to stay? That's really, important to think about. So Allan, have you done much with the Alexa platform, or I only see you on the Actions on Google platform, so I've
done a little with Alexa. I have several I have to remember the name right. Several skills that I've written.
Yes.
None of which are out there yet, mostly because every time I work on them, I realize just how much better it is on the assistant side, so I never finish up the Alexa side.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I noticed recently too. I put voice tic-tac-toe on on Alexa, and at first I was like, I didn't really want to speak too much to it because I was thinking, oh, hey Brett, how's it going?
Hey Brett.
So like I didn't want to say too much publicly about it because I was afraid that the Alexa platform was going to be better. But I can honestly say I enjoyed developing on Actions on Google way much more than Alexa. I felt like with the Alexa platform I was like shackled with like the intents and so forth, it was not, as pleasurable.
Yeah, I just find it. I feel like I trip over myself more on the Alexa. You can do more with the Alexa right now, which is no surprise. They've got a 2-year head start. But I feel like everything I try to do is just, it's just difficult. It's a burden. Whereas on the Google side, it's a lot smoother and a lot easier.
Yeah,
I think the biggest difference I have between the two, and this is one that I'm kind of curious about Hicham's perspective on it, as he deals with people as well, is the two of them have very different philosophies. Technologically, they're almost identical. They work in very much the same way. But Alexa has this you're teaching Alexa a new skill. It's always going to be Alexa that is speaking. Whereas on Google, it's very much, you're not teaching Google a skill. Google is handing you off to somebody else. And there's that very clear handoff. And as part of that handoff, you feel it, you are introduced a new personality. These aspects are have a very different feel to it. And if you're a brand, is Alexa your spokesperson, or do you have your own spokesperson? And that's a major difference. So Brett, I apologize that we keep muting you. There was background noise that we wanted to make sure we weren't picking up.
Hicham, I'm interested in your perspective on that, because you do work with a lot of clients. And with the voice, you can, override it with SSML, but, the default is the Alexa voice.
Well, even with SSML, you can't change the voice.
Oh, really? So I cannot play sound.
You can play sound, but that means you've got to pre-record everything.
Okay.
As opposed to the, and you can now slightly change the prosody.
Okay.
But you can't change male, female voices. You don't have a selection of voices the same way we do on the home side.
Okay.
Yeah, regarding voices, it is true that you have a bunch of voices that you can choose from on Google Assistant platform, but I'm not both on those voices. I find that there is a difference between Assistant when she's speaking as a default, and when you enter on the skill, it feels like it's quite a less quality voice, and I would love to see those voices that we just saw last week on some articles, when you cannot distinguish between the text-to-speech and the real human voices.
Yes.
And we've seen that from Google. So we as developer, we are expecting to have some great quality off-the-shelf voices. And but regarding the philosophy, if you want to use another voice on Alexa, it's still possible, but you will have to use another API, and you generate your audio files. The key difference I've seen in both platforms is that you have more freedom to do whatever you want on Google One, but on Amazon they really tied the language model to the text-to-speech, to the speech-to-text, and what that means is that depending on your app, you will be able to recognize certain types of names, certain types of objects. For example, if you are building a Star Wars app, you will have some weird planet names, and that maybe will not be supported by the default speech-to-text provided by Google. But within the Alexa platform, you can customize your speech-to-text, and you can teach Alexa how to recognize those weird planet names and weird animals and weird personages that live within the Star Wars universe. So yeah, I see this difference, and then the platform for me are quite equals.
Yeah, yeah. So
we've got a bunch of comments that are all
okay,
really
cool.
good.
All right.
So let me touch on a couple of them. Brian Mannix makes an excellent point about, it's up to us. It's all about the early apps that get built, and we're the ones that are building it. And that's what this community is doing. Whether they're useful, whether than just a small automated mashup. So while it's great that Google is giving tools with their templates, I think it's really going to be all about somebody creating the killer app. Arthur agrees. Just tackling my first skill on Amazon, and it's painful. He's kind of shocked that there are 25,000 skills out there. Brian agrees about the differences. He loves developing with Google too. Puts us more in charge of the experience, and I think that's a great point. Is the amount of control that we have really is bigger. And he raises a question that he might be correct about, but I don't remember, that Alexa doesn't have implicit invocation, whereas Google does. And I know that goes into another topic that you wanted to talk about, Marcellus.
Exactly. So I seem like I do remember an article saying that the Alexa platform they were starting to have implicit invocation. I don't have access to that. Maybe Brett knows about that. Brett, do you know anything about that? We'll have to unmute you if.
There you go. I'm back. Sorry, I'm cooking. That's the background noise. Yes, there's a little bit going on around implicit discovery on Alexa. I've come across it a few times myself, and I think I was the first probably to report on it. But it's infrequent, and it's certainly not something you can track. Like so in Google Console, you can look at the implicit discoveries, see what the phrases were that brought it up, if people selected it or not. It's a much more robust experience today. Not surprising. Google knows how to do this, right? They've got those assets in the back end. So Amazon is definitely doing it, but it's really much earlier for them in terms of implementing it. And there is no indication about, they've acknowledged that they're doing it, but there is no indication about how they're doing it and how to optimize for it, and whether they're going to, when and whether they're going to give you data on it.
And Brett, I think
go ahead,
brings up
Allan.
an excellent point that, again, this goes back to the nature of the two products and the nature of the two companies behind them. Google is still very much, admired in search, and implicit discovery is really just search. It's search engine optimization. Whereas whereas Amazon is really good at you finding things in a store and installing them. And that's why it went with an app store model instead. And while there's some overlap, both of them are doing a little bit of what the other one is trying to do. It's still very much in both of their DNA about what they do better.
Yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to show is, like, for the people that don't know what we're talking about, basically to give a little bit background on that, we're talking about where inside of and I can give it a screen share on this. Can everybody see my screen? So basically, This is voice tic-tac-toe. So inside of the invocation phrases, I can show here. I have a few invocation phrases that people can use. Like, do you want to play a game of tic-tac-toe? Start a game. I want to play tic-tac-toe, and so forth, inside of your action. And then from there, you can then see people using those invocations and the impressions and how many times they selected that impression. So one of the things I wanted to share about this was that, from my experience, I think it helps to have, like, if people are selecting the skill, I'm sorry, the voice app.
Marcellus, can I just interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
They're saying that they're having trouble seeing what you're showing.
Okay.
It's not up on the main screen.
Is it on the main screen now? Should be for you guys, right?
It is for me, but I don't know what's going across to the broadcast.
Let me look on what's being displayed, and I will. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's not displaying on.
There you go.
YouTube Live.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So basically, you have. So I was showing these are the spoken phrases that a person can say. So they can say, "I want to play tic-tac-toe," and then it will say, "Hey, do you want to, play voice tic-tac-toe?" Right? And it shows you the impressions and shows you the selection, and it'll also give you the percentage of when that event happened, how many times they have said, "Okay, yeah, I want to play tic-tac-toe." So one of the things I wanted to share is that a lot of times people want to know, like, okay, how do I get discovered, right? And this is, one way that you can try to work to try to get discovered. But there was a presentation last year at Google I/O, and I think a lot of times, a lot of people did not pay attention to this. And the lady on stage, she was saying, "Hey, if you want to have implicit discovery, make sure that your metrics are right? Make sure that people are not, jumping into your skill and jumping out and so forth." So if you look at the usage, I highly recommend that you try to optimize the abort rate. And now this is like coming from me, and I don't know if they are exactly using these numbers yet, but from the presentation, it seemed like these are the numbers that they are looking at. So abort rate, the average length of conversation, and so forth. And also, one of the things that I noticed was when I went on the Actions on Google site, went to the docs, and there's under conversation, I believe, and best practices, right? I went through this and tried to implement every last single one, and then submitted my application. Then after that, my numbers went up from there. So it was, I think, around in the 50s, and then it went up to 199, and then Christmas happened, and then it went to in the 1,000, and then started going down from there. But I wanted to share that because I think a lot of people want to get discovered, but their app is not taking advantage of all the best practices that can help them get discovered more. So Allan and Hicham, have you guys looked at that or have any insight on that?
No, their best practice guide is essential. I mean, not just for gaining followers, just getting approved sometimes. If you're not following their best practices on how to deal with no responses or bad responses or all of their suggestions along those lines, and these are very, very basic things that you can do and implement. Yes. If you're not following them, they'll tell you so, and hold up your review process for at least 24 hours.
Yeah, so some of them, from my experience, they let you slide. Say, for instance, having a doing the repeat, where if you say repeat and the system will repeat what it just said. The things like that, they do let slide, but I think that they are taking a note and saying, "Hey, these are the things that are good," and so forth.
They're getting stricter about that.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
Yeah. So, and definitely, I see that ones that follow the best practices, or at least have a good reason for not following a best practice, will go through a lot faster. Whereas if there's something that you don't do, even if they don't ding you on it, even if they don't send anything back, they're not as eager to release it.
Gotcha.
So following, and I'm in this sort of thing, I'm an outsider just like everyone else. I don't get my stuff approved any faster. If anything, I get it approved slower in some cases. But following their best practices, when I followed their best practices slavishly, oddly enough, things get approved faster.
Okay.
So, hey, Marcellus, I just wanted to add one thing. Your comment about abort rate was confirmed in a podcast interview I did with Brad Abrams, who's the group product manager for Google Assistant. So if people want to listen to that, and I encourage people who are building apps, because I had an extended segment devoted to SEO on Google Assistant. So one of the things he did say was that they're mostly testing right now. I mean, the implicit discovery is out there, but they consider it all somewhat an experiment right now. But one of the things they are looking at is not just if they suggest it and whether someone accepts the suggestion or not. So that's one signal. In addition to you got the first signal, which is whatever your keywords are, essentially the implicit discovery phrases in the Assistant app. And then the other signal is when they suggest it to you as a user, do you accept it? So that's one signal. And then the next signal is after they use it, do they come back? So that's a really important thing for people to know, that that's one of the signals they're using. So if you have a significant premature abort rate, it's essentially it'd be on the web would be the equivalent of a bounce rate. If you have a big bounce rate, you're less likely to get suggested through the implicit discovery going forward. So really important for people to keep in mind. He said some other really interesting things too about beyond those signals, some of the things you're looking at. So I believe that was episode 14, but if you guys just go to voicebot.ai and hit the podcast link, you'll find Brad Abrams in there. And it was really illuminating.
Yeah, I'll definitely add that to the show notes. Brett, do you mind go ahead and introduce yourself?
Oh, sure. Brett Kinsella. Most people know me through voicebot.ai, which is a publication dedicated to voice and AI in the space, of a podcast by the same name. So I write every day, 50, 60 times a month, along with my colleague, Ava Muchler, who a lot of people know as well. So that's it. We're dedicated to this space. I also, in addition to that, I actually also do some development, more on the design side. In the space, and work with some brands on it. And I've worked predominantly on Google and Alexa. I've done a little bit on Cortana.
All right, thank you. So let's move on to our next topic. One of the things I was interested in talking with the community about was what one feature that you would love to see on Action on Google, but is not on Actions on Google. Allan, I see you smiling, so I guess you can go ahead.
I'm limited to one feature?
Well, your top features.
Well, I can tell you about the things that I complain about most often to them. Aside from bugs, of which there are tons. As far as what the developer community seems to be looking for, one of the biggest things I think is we're looking for improved authentication.
Yes.
Account linking right now is ridiculously complex. And most of the questions that we get boil down to, I finally figured out how to use OAuth for Google.
Yes.
Why did you completely change things with OAuth for the assistant?
Yeah.
So I'd really like to see them improve how they handle OAuth.
Yeah, so I go to a meetup here in San Francisco, a company called Starbutter, right? They host a Actions on Google meetup. And in the last meetup, he was saying that they improved the process of authentication. Have you guys heard of anything like this where you don't have to have a server now? Or, I was trying to get him to explain a little bit more about that, but
who was this?
This was Owen.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I wanted to know if anybody else, had heard of anything like that, because that will really improve the process. Because, you know, I understand, and this is me talking like from as a developer, not a, you know, Google employee, but like I understand that you don't want people to get the email address because, well, I don't really understand that process. Like, why can't I just get the email address?
Oh, because that immediately turns your action into a spam generator, which Google doesn't want to do.
Yes, but the thing is that, like, I gave that email address, and if I don't want to give that email address, I can just say no, right? So, you know.
Well, but here, I mean, so Google's perspective on identity services is incredibly long and complex, but it boils, I mean, it makes sense why you need to implement an OAuth 2 server. Normally, OAuth is used to give somebody permission to access something.
Yes, to do something, yeah.
To do so, well, access information, and then do something in corresponds to that information. From Google's perspective, the assistant is now essentially a browser. If you think of the assistant as a browser, you now need to log into somebody else's service. So the way that we have to do this in the modern era is through OAuth. You know, we can't have a login field. That's not useful. That's not something we can easily do with voice. But OAuth lets us do these sorts of things. The problem is that means that the service, the thing that you're providing, that you as a developer are providing access to, needs an OAuth server. So I understand their perspective on that. The problem is Google spent a lot of time over the years saying, you don't need to implement an OAuth server. We have Firebase Login, or we have Google Login, or we have all of these other login tools that you can use. And the assistant isn't taking advantage of it yet.
Yeah.
And yet being the operative word. I mean, this, you know, from my conversations with them, they are very aware that this is an issue, and it's on their short list of things they are addressing.
Yeah, yeah.
Their short list is pretty large, however.
Yeah, and I think the documentation could be a little bit clearer too, because
the real problem is it can't.
Okay.
OAuth is incredibly complex, and it's incredibly complex for a reason.
So just to double click in this a little bit more. So your implementation of the OAuth server, was it through like the passport system that, you know, you can get, you know, an OAuth server running, I assume, or did you build it yourself from scratch?
I built an OAuth server from scratch.
Okay.
Because that's the sort of thing I like to do as a hobby.
Okay, gotcha.
Cool. No, seriously, I didn't have any other OAuth servers that I could easily find, so it was easier for me to build a minimal implementation. Gotcha. And fortunately, Google told me what that minimal implementation needed to be. That is in the documentation. That's why the documentation looks so ridiculously complex.
Yeah.
Because they're teaching you how to build an OAuth server, which is ridiculously complex.
Yes, I agree with that. If you're going to build it yourself, so what are the other features that you were, you know, had on your list?
Oh, here, let me jump in before Allan goes on. Before you go on your second one, let me jump in. The thing that I would most like to see coming out of there is voice app to voice app or assistant app to assistant app linking without losing session. So I would like to have multiple voice apps, or have a partner that has a voice app. Like, for example, I'm not going to do this, but let's say I had a travel app and I wanted to have a partner who had a hotel. I want to be able to go into that hotel, grab information for my user, maintain session, get that information, and provide that to the user without losing the user. So right now, all the handoffs, and there will be handoffs, you know, through deep linking, which is great, but just handoffs through deep linking is only part of it, because it's so hard to get a user and to engage them and to provide a good service to them. You don't want to just hand them off to somebody else and then they lose your session and you lose the context of the job you're doing for them. So that's my number one thing for all the platforms is allow voice app to voice app linking and being able to maintain session at the same time so you can provide a complete user experience without having to do everything within your own app.
Yes, yes. And inside of the chat, somewhat like corollary to that is going from an Android app to the assistant, where you can like have a Android app that does travel or whatever, and they can have a button on there that goes to the assistant, that goes to the chat portion of that. Yeah, that's definitely something that is needed inside of the space.
Also in the chat, Arthur actually brings up exactly what my number 2, actually is my number 3 feature is, and that's being able to better integrate with Chromecast devices. Because right now you can build a Chromecast app and launch it from a web. You can launch it from an Android or an iOS app, but you can't launch it from voice. And so we're seeing hints of that in the developer code space now. So you can do things like if you need to display something, you can hand off from a voice application to a mobile to the mobile assistant and display stuff on the mobile assistant.
Yes.
But you can't hand off from voice to TV.
Yeah.
And that I think would be incredibly powerful. And they hinted about that at I/O 2016. That was one of the things that they showed in their concept video. At I/O 2017, they suggested that this was going to be something that we could do as developers.
Yes.
And when I went around asking about it, nobody could tell me anything about it.
Yeah.
And they kept handing me off to somebody else. And that person would hand me off to somebody else. So I got to know quite a few people on the team that way.
Yeah.
But nobody claimed to know anything about this feature that they talked about in the keynote.
Yes. Yes.
So I agree with Arthur. Better Chromecast support is definitely on my list.
Octavio, am I saying your name correctly? You just joined the chat.
Hello. Yeah, sorry, I was running late. Yes, Octavio is the right name.
Yeah. So basically, we were talking about what are the features that you would love to see inside of the assistant. Well, let's first introduce yourself. What are you working on, and so forth.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Octavio Menocal, and I'm a software engineer working for the American-based agency Rain. We used to develop Alexa skills, and lately we also been exploring the assistant platform. On my own as freelancer, I also developed a couple of Google Actions, and it's been really great. I've been loving the Actions on Google platform. I even participated on the challenge for the Actions on Google. Unfortunately, well, I didn't win anything, but it was super exciting to get my action. And I've been working hard on it, and I have it available for 6 of the 8 locales. I only missing in Japan and Korea. And, it's like 2 of the hardest ones.
Yeah.
And I'm also working on a project that I want to migrate my Alexa skill to the Google Assistant, but it uses account linking. And I had preferred to use the Google authorization process, but I came across an issue, or I'm not sure if it's an issue, but the Actions on Google didn't let me use the Google authorization. So thanks to some of the Java folks, they built the Java framework, and I came across their tutorial to use authorization.com tool. So I'm planning to use that, but I would have loved to occupy the Google authorization process itself.
Which OAuth tool are you going to be using?
The Java framework. It's the guys from Java Tech from Berlin. they built this framework that you can build your Alexa skill in Google Action with just one coding. So they are releasing constantly tutorials to improve your application. So they released this example to use authorization instead of Google authorization. That's what I have loved to use.
Gotcha. Cool. So did you have anything else, Allan, before we move on?
The final one that I'm waiting for is, or that I think developers are waiting for, and I should point out back in the chat, William pointed out that having not just having authentication, but having a better permission system to go with that authentication is also essential to have. I see that all tied in, and he's absolutely right.
Yeah, because currently I don't think you can access like the calendar and so forth of the user, right?
No, you can't. And well, you can if you get their permission with OAuth, and that's a long story. But it's things like you can't get their location. So under the current system, I see you're looking skeptical there, and switch the camera to me, by the way.
Okay. It should be to you right now.
Okay. Under the current system, you can request a user's location. And then next time, you again have to request the user's location. And every time you request it, the user has to explicitly give permission. That's not how any other permission system works anywhere.
Yeah.
So being able to grant permission to get a user's location, even a user, we can't even, here's an example of just how absurd that becomes. One of the best practices they give is to change your greeting every time a user shows up to be, to reflect that, they've been there before.
Yes.
Or that, it's a different time of day. Well, there's no way to say good morning versus good afternoon.
Yes, that's
you don't know
another
what time
feature.
zone the user is in.
Exactly. Yes, that's another feature that I've been wanting to see. I just recently released a daily affirmation with my sister, right? She did the voice and provided the affirmations. I coded it up. And one of the things was that I was thinking, like, I want this to change in the morning for the user, and I'm not able to get the local time zone of the user. So yeah, that is something that I would love to see.
Right. And under the current system, if you got their location once and had permission to use that, then that would be great. You could use that to figure out the time zone. It's not efficient, but you could do it. But asking every time is ridiculous. Or even just, being able to say, hi, Marcellus, good to see you again. Yes. Well, you can't say hi, Marcellus, because you have to ask for their name. And you can store their name, but people are going to wonder, why are you asking for my name if the only way you're going to use it is to echo it back? Yes. Why do you need permission for that?
Exactly.
No.
All right, Brett.
The other feature that I'm looking forward to is streaming audio. This is something that Amazon has. They implement it really, really poorly. It's a lousy implementation. I really hope Google's implementation is better.
Yes. Exactly.
So that's the other big feature I'm looking forward to.
Yes.
Marcellus?
Yeah. Hicham.
Yeah, regarding the features, there is a lot of interesting improvement iteration that can be done on the platform, but more fundamentally, and Brett started to talk about this, I think there is something broken in this skill system, in this action system. Let's call it skill system. The main issue is that when you talk to someone, you don't refer to his knowledge on a specific topic with saying, okay, Marcellus, ask your knowledge in Google Action to tell me how to do an OAuth. Or ask, okay, Marcellus, ask your knowledge in music to tell me what's the best guitarist in the world. there's something weird on this invocation system, and I guess because everybody is like hustling and in a hurry to deliver something, we are trying to reproduce what we have seen in the mobile app, on the mobile app ecosystem in the voice, but I think it's doomed from day one. And maybe a solution will be to start thinking to something smaller, which I like to call micro skills, in which maybe we shouldn't have as a developer all this freedom of designing all the interactions. Maybe we should let this to the owner of the assistant. If it's Google, it's Google. If it's Amazon, it's Amazon. But what we want to provide is, for example, if I am renting cars, I just want to give you like the proper APIs, and Google Assistant is able to rent a car on Rent a Car, for example, or whatever provider. If I want to book plane tickets, I don't want to have some weird experience. Hello, welcome to this company, and we can do this, and going through, and it's like very heterogeneous. You will have good designers on companies. You will have bad designers on companies. You will have it's like a bunch of weird experiences, and it can work on mobile, but I think it shouldn't be like this for assistants.
I think the problem, the counterpoint to that, though, is that requires the device, the assistant device, Alexa, whatever, to have an API and a set of and knowledge about everything. And we're already seeing this as a problem when it comes to home control. So while it's fine, they've got a bunch of built-ins for lights, for example, and that's great. But if I want to be able to control my toaster, there's no pre-built phrases for my toaster. If I want to be able to control my washing machine, I have very limited control of that. If I want to be able to control a doorbell, there's very limited control for that right now.
If you want to buy a plane ticket from New York to Paris, for example,
right? Okay, so here's the thing. Under the model of computing that we have had for decades, I either run an application, or go to a website, or go to an app. And I agree.
It's always the same form.
The future way is to just say, tell my device that I want to buy a plane ticket. The problem is somebody needs to teach the device what buy a plane ticket means, and then offer that API to anybody who wants it. Right? That's what you're looking for, right?
So Brian, one of the people in the chat room mentioned was that I feel like what a lot of the developer community is missing is the personality aspect. Yes, we want quick solutions, but this is a voice interface, and we should be building characters as well. So I guess that is in response to Hicham's point, and I see where you're saying is in, like, if you want to do certain things, it's like, why can't I just have a standardized approach, and then I can just say, oh, I want to rent from Avis, or I want to rent from
but we can say, but here's the thing, we can say right now that I want to rent from Avis. We have it's open Avis. Okay, what we can't say right now is I want to rent a car. and just have all, and have that be the input. And I think the reason why we can't do that, and I don't think we'll be able to do that for a long time, is go ahead and try to define all of the possible things that we want to do with voice.
Yeah, and then also
build an API for that, and that will take you longer than anything else.
And the thing, what Brian is saying
hard
too.
problem.
Say again.
Yeah, it's a hard problem.
Yeah. And like what Brian would.
More to the point, it's not just a hard problem, it's a limiting problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because if that's the only way that you do it, and if that's the model that we had with mobile devices, one of the great things about mobile devices is that they are general purpose computing platforms. Without that, we never would have had something like Uber. We never, there are a ton of applications that we never would have.
Yeah.
Because the people that invented the iPhone never thought about it. So if you were only, it's essentially what you're saying is you want to be limited to the apps that Apple or Google provided.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what a general purpose computing platform lets us do.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. We're going to see more of that. We're going to see more of those baked in phrases. But I always want the ability to launch that other other action, that other skill.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to launch it easier and better. So I want to be able to say things more naturally. I want to be able to do things like say, hey, ask my ask my health diary to record what my blood pressure is.
Mm-hmm.
Or tell my health diary that my blood pressure is blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. These are natural phrases, but still incorporating some other action.
Yeah.
So one of the things I try to do more and more as I work with my clients that, some of which have brand names.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. We've got a name that we can attach to.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we're trying to make it so that phrase is a very natural phrase to say, including the talk to or ask or open or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever trigger needs to be there before our name, make that so that it flows naturally. Mm-hmm. And that's a tough problem right now and Google makes it tougher.
So let's we've been at this for about an hour now, and I think we should move on to our next section, which is demos. Hicham, you have a product, and I think it's probably going down the path of what you're like talking about just recently, is that like you have templates and so forth. And I'm not for sure exactly how far you go down that path, but I'm interested in like seeing your product and seeing what you guys do.
Okay.
And you have the present power.
Thanks.
Okay, cool. So we see your screen.
Great. So, our approach to at Smartly.AI to building voice bots, the so-called voice bots, is that we want to make it accessible to technical and non-technical people. And the way we see it today is that it should be easy to edit. Sorry, this one is in French. It's because we are a French company.
Okay.
But it should be easy to edit your conversational flow, which is what you can see here. And what we want to offer to the developers coming on our platform is that it's like a Google Maps for conversation. So you can unzoom, you can have a huge space to work, right? And what you can do is that you can modelize dialog flows simply by drag and drop. Okay, like this. and then you can connect stuff together. So it may seem a bit simplistic, but the interesting part of this is that anybody on the team can edit. For example, this is the welcome message. Hey, welcome to, I don't know, Coca-Cola, for example. Right? And you can upload audio file, and you can do a lot of stuff. You can without going through the SSML constraints. And you can also mix. So the way we see the life of a voice app, first you have to like build a quick prototype that you will show to your boss or to your customer to convince him to give you more money, right? We can imagine it like this. So you can build everything statically. So the questions, the answers, the intents, and then you do the demo and you get the budget, right? And once you get the budget, you will have to do what Allan was talking about. So account linking, authentication, and stuff. And then we need a developer in the loop, right?
So if I could interject and ask a question here. So basically what you're saying is the tool that you're showing right now, that is mainly for the prototype phase, where you're trying to show someone and say, hey, this is what I can build for you, right? And then
actually it's for both. It's for both answers.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the first step, you don't need technical skills. So you define your bot here. You can test it in the simulator. Oh, seems that I have been dropped here by someone else. Sorry. And when things become serious, you start involving developers.
Okay.
Because we don't believe that you can build serious stuff without developers. Gotcha. And then you can add this object. It's called Node.js. So you can plug like instead of having a static answer, you can plug like a code snippet here, and you will be able to code your business logic. You can make calls to APIs, to databases, and we will host your dialog flow and your code, and we will execute it.
Okay.
And the last part. Yeah. So let me just jump into a voice app and let you see. And the last part is that once you have done your app and you are happy with the results, you will be able to deploy it on Google and on Alexa currently. So
I'm interested in like the implementation with the Alexa platform. From what I saw, you could not get the individual like the individual utterances that the person has said. So how does that work here?
Sure. Let me see if I have someone with a lot of data. So how does it work here? We are generating the intent schema, what they call at Amazon the intent schema. So here you will find all the intents and all the utterances within this intent, and you will have also an endpoint. So these are two information that you will have to copy and paste within the Amazon platform.
Okay.
And then we will in the case we are working with Google or with Cortana, we will get the input. So we will do our own natural language understanding on this input. But if we are working with Amazon, we will just use the name of the intent fired by Amazon.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Nice. Nice.
Okay, and we have some modules to that will allow you to send notifications, voice notifications, on to the user. For example, a user asks a dentist for an urgent meeting, and the dentist can answer back, "Okay, I have a slot at 6 p.m. You can come," and so the dentist will be able to just come here and type the message and answer the user. Here I have all my data sets, my intents, my entities. And we offer also a bunch of analytics. And the cool thing is that you will be able to compare head-to-head the performance of your Google app and Amazon app within the same graph. So you will see which one is performing best.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So got a question for you. Say, for instance, if I wanted to hook this up to like a dashbot, is that possible, or is it only the analytics on here?
So right now, it will be possible. Within the builder, you can add 2 lines of codes in each state here. So, and in this line of code, it's JavaScript. It's not Node.js. So you can send directly your data to dashboard, for example.
Cool. Cool. Nice. Hey, Nazem, I see that you joined. Thanks for coming in. Do you mind if right now we're in our demo section? If you want to, introduce yourself, feel free.
Sure. Hey, guys. Happy New Year, everyone. My name is Nazim, and I was really interested in developing. I've developed one Amazon scale and two very like a light, simple, would try to use all the best practices actions on Google apps. I've also created one, not created per se, but implemented a smart home app, a Google smart home implementation for.
So what's the name of those applications?
Oh, I mean, the 2 live ones are Real Talk, and it's basically just a Chuck Norris app, and the other one is kind of a bad jokes called Life Stories.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So it's just basically bad. I mean, for jokes in general, but I try to put like the best practices and use the best practices possible on these 2 apps. But I really realized the opportunity these kind of platforms, especially with the upcoming of transactions. I'm not sure if anybody implemented the transactions app right here.
Yeah, no, I haven't implemented the transaction thing.
Yeah, I mean, account linking, I've heard you guys, I followed the letter conversation before joining. Account linking is really, it was a little bit tedious for me to at the beginning, but I got a hang of it. I mean, it was, at some point, I got a simple implementation at the beginning, very simple. Everything's like a very simple, like, okay.
Yeah, I kind of feel that, like, I know Allan liked to implement his own stuff from scratch, but I'm not about that at all. I'm about more of the product, right? Getting the product out. So like maybe like as a community, we probably should have like, canonical ways of doing this. So people can just like go to a GitHub link and like download the code, and like it's a community type of thing versus having to implement it every time from scratch.
Well, the worst part is we had a canonical way to do it, and they pulled the rug out from under us.
And which is like using their server, right?
No. One of my Stack Overflow answers, one of my most popular Stack Overflow answers, was how to do this using Google servers.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yes.
And then they disabled that.
But I think it's still possible to use Google for account linking. It's just, you just need to have this page that redirects to Google account linking straight away from your webhook, basically. and bring and send back the token. I mean, and it's possible to get the email as well, of the user's email this way as well. It's probably not the best way, but it's definitely possible. But I agree with you guys. It's definitely like not easy at the beginning. Definitely not.
So, and then that is you said you implemented transactions, right? So that is
actually, I was interested in jumping into that because that's, I think, where it gets very interesting as well.
Yes, and I think account linking is a prerequisite to the transactions, right?
Yeah, it is. Most definitely. I mean, if you want to use transactions, you definitely want to have like your user's account link.
Yes. Yeah. Cool. All right. Thanks for joining in. So let's move right along. Allan, I'm really interested. One of the things I wanted to say too is that I'm really interested in like what people are building and what they have done with the platform, and especially people that are within the community, because there's a lot of trash skills out there, but from people that are in the community commenting on forums and so forth, I trust their skills will be a little bit better than just like the t-shirt skills. So I want to say t-shirt skills, I mean like the skills that people do just for a t-shirt or whatever. So yeah, I'm really interested in that. One of the things that I wanted to give a shout out to, and I think as a community we probably should like use so we can see each other's stuff, is bot list. Have you guys heard of that? So
not by that name, no. What is it?
So bot list is a website that you can show, and I'll show my screen right quick. Yeah, right here. And hopefully everybody can see that. So bot list is basically a website where you can post your bot on. So they have Amazon, Alexa, Echo, Android. They even have like the Messenger, Slack, Boss, and so forth. So if you do a bot that is across different platforms, you can show this off and say, hey, this is on Alexa and on Google Home, or across these platforms. So I put two of my bots on here. So like this Smartly.AI, they have it for the Echo, the Google Assistant, and Messenger, and so forth. So you can just see that all at once, and you can like go in here, and I think you can also post a review and so forth. Like Google presently doesn't have this. And I think this is a nice stopgap way to try to get feedback and so forth. And also to see from a particular maker what all they have developed. And I think this is a good tool, for the community to like, use to see what people are doing. So with that, let me let Allan present. And I asked Allan, can he present one of his skills? Because I'm like I said, interested in what people are doing.
I'm kind of amused you said you're interested in more than just the t-shirt skills, because the one that I was going to present was probably one of my t-shirt skills. It's kind of a fluff one, and it was meant as a fluff one. But I was using it to test out SSML and some of the things we were discovering about SSML. And I developed it over Thanksgiving weekend with the intent to get it deployed in time for Christmas. And it did get deployed in time for Christmas. Yes. They deployed it on December 22nd. So it is, but it's still available. It is called Santa's Helper. So let's actually start this up correctly. Hang on. Talk to Santa's Helpers.
All right, getting the test version of Santa's Helpers.
Howdy, I'm Linda from Santa's Workshop. Do you have any questions?
Can you guys hear that okay?
Yes.
That's a really good question, but I can't answer right now. What else would you like to know?
Can I talk to Santa?
Sorry, the big guy isn't available. What else would you like to know?
What does he like to eat?
That's a really good question, but I can't answer right now. What else would you like to know?
Can I talk to Scott?
Sorry, Scott is taking a break right now. What
So
else would you
does
like
she
to
answer
know?
anything?
Talk to Sarah.
Sorry, Sarah is taking a break right now. Any other
Very good
questions for
fallback
me?
implementation.
Talk to Joseph.
Hi, this is Joseph.
Ah,
Any other questions for me?
What's your favorite food?
Not to brag, but I really like my hot chocolate. What else would you like to know?
Talk to Abraham.
Sorry, Abraham is taking a break right now. Any other questions for me?
Go away.
okay, cool. So basic, yeah.
So there are a bunch of things in that that I was trying out.
Yeah.
I was surprised about the answer about what Santa likes to eat, because it's supposed to actually tell you.
Okay.
But you'll notice when I asked that, I said, what does he like to eat?
Mm-hmm.
So it keeps track of who you're talking about at any given time. If I had asked about what Mrs. Claus is doing, or if I could talk to Mrs. Claus, it would say no. And if I asked what she liked to eat, it knows who I just last talked about. What I was playing with a lot with that was different voices.
Yes.
So we're able to change the prosody, and it's not documented, but we can change the voice as well.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Using SSML. So I was playing with that, with, changing both which voice we were using, male, female, and what pitch of the voice it is.
Gotcha.
So I have 7 agents, 7 elves, each of which has a different voice.
Nice.
Each of which has a different personality. Which has different favorite foods. Each of which will give you different answers in different cases.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. The one of the things that I was thinking about doing, I played around with the SSML, the latest stuff that they recently did, and I put the pitch down low, right? And it sounded like Satan, right?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, so I was thinking about doing a Satan app, right? That has the personality of Satan, right? And he wants you to shovel coal for him or whatever. Yeah, that was really, really fun.
So this is all great. The biggest problem with it, though, is now when you ask to leave, when you tell it to quit, it's supposed to say it in the voice of the elf you're talking to.
Ah, yeah.
But they just messed that up.
Gotcha.
And in fact, they messed it up right as they released my app. So that was incredibly frustrating.
Yeah.
But it's that sort of thing. Part of what I learned from that is helping me develop a toolkit to let anybody do that. Just so that all you'll need to do is create a bunch of different responses, the types of questions that people will ask. If you need to add additional code, make it easy to add that additional code. But for the most part, make it just configuration driven.
Yeah.
Here are the different voices that you can talk to. Here are the agents that you can talk to. Let the user switch between them. It's supposed to let you switch between them. I put that barrier too high, I guess.
Yeah.
Let you give certain answers under certain conditions. Whether those conditions are who you're talking to, or how many times you've asked that question. One of the things I didn't show, for example, is you can start giving it a list of things that you want for Christmas. And after about 4 of them, it says, boy, you're asking for a lot, aren't you? So making it so that you've got flexible answers to the same question or whatever. Make it so that your answers are very context sensitive.
So you plan to do a framework that people can download, or how would someone use this? Okay.
No, I'm planning on open sourcing this.
Okay, cool. Nice. Nazem, I don't know if I'm saying your name correctly. Did I say that? Did you have anything that you wanted to present?
I'm sorry, what you said?
Did you have anything that you would like to present?
I mean, I don't have anything right now. I mean, as I told you, my apps are basically just jokes. It keeps track of the context. Basically, they use Dialogflow, and it keeps track of the context of which type of jokes are you asking for.
Mm-hmm.
So when it says like, do you want to listen to another one? So it keeps like track of the context. You can switch contexts.
Yeah.
I mean, like types of jokes. And I've actually made it multilingual as well. But I've had some kind of issues with that because at some point it was randomly given. Sometimes, like, I would talk to the English app and it would give me a French answer. But it was, I don't know if it was like actually a bad implementation from my side on the back end. But I think it's a little better now. I've changed a couple of things.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything to present, to be honest with you.
Cool. That's cool. And we're about to wrap up now, but one of the things I wanted to do is like get together, because I think as a community we are stronger together versus everybody just in a cave somewhere and not interacting. Because I think the people that came to today and want to interact, you become a better developer if you interact with other people. One of the things, one of the tenets of this broadcast, and if we ever do this again, is that I wanted this to be about the community, as in, like, if you have something to present, you can say it and you can, communicate. And I know, like, a lot of every time that somebody posts on the Google Plus group of like showing their application, you have to take it down unless you have it open source. So I want this to be like an opportunity for other people to just show their stuff, get feedback, and so forth. So hopefully that you guys enjoyed this. One of the last thing is that, do we have any questions from the audience? I know that there's like 6 people watching and some activity in the chat room. So if there's any questions in the audience, have you seen any, Allan? I know that you've been watching the.
Yeah, they've the conversation. There's actually been a vibrant conversation. It's a shame it doesn't get preserved once the broadcast ends.
Okay.
So I do want to capture a lot of it.
Yeah.
William, for example, pointed out that Alexa. Let me make sure I find exactly what he said again, because it was useful. That you can use the slot Amazon literal, which will span the whole phrase to get the raw input.
Really?
Of what they say. The problem is, officially they deprecated it and removed it, and there was such outcry that they brought it back.
Okay.
But when I ran into that, my understanding is that that's only good in U.S. English. It doesn't work in any of their other dialects.
Gotcha. Okay.
So there's no, at least the last time I checked, there was no good way to do it. If someone has a way to do it, prove us wrong.
Yeah,
and that's one of the things I like about this community is I think we're all willing to be proven wrong here.
Yes.
Yeah, in my case, Allan, is that for Alexa, it's true that there was a literal, and it came back because of the users or the developers had already their applications with this slot type. And since Amazon was not giving it support anymore, they were encouraging developers to move their model to another custom slot types. But yeah, it's true. Even Amazon is not allowing literal for the other locales. But I think trying to get the raw text, it's really hard from the interaction model. Maybe if Amazon did what Google is doing, just giving us developers in another field the raw text, that would be really, really helpful. Google, for me, this is one of the coolest things that Google is doing, giving us the raw text. So hopefully Amazon will get us that too in the future.
Yes.
I think even better than giving us the raw text, one of the things I really love is a feature of Dialogflow where we can dynamically and programmatically change the entities.
That would be great. Yeah, I agree with you.
Awesome.
That would be great. Yeah.
just being able to, I take advantage of this in one of my other actions, and it's an incredibly powerful tool. We'll talk about it another time, though.
Yeah, yeah. It's a double-edged sword, though. I'll tell you why. Because I had a big problem with voice tic-tac-toe, where I had the intent correct and so forth. It worked. And then behind the scenes, it automatically just changed dynamically, and they were going to the wrong intent. And then I, emailed them, and they like, oh, train more, train more, train more. But the problem is that I didn't like is that they had the ability to change something up under me without it being solidified. Where I, like on the Alexa platform, when you press the build model, it builds that model and it is static, versus where a dialogue flow, from my experience, the dialogue is not static. You can just change it dynamically. And also, like the Microsoft, I forgot what they call their thing, but they have the same thing of where you press the button and it's like set in stone. That's one thing I like.
So some other items from the conversation, and I agree with you, by the way. Some other items from the conversation. William, we've got a bunch of people that want to demonstrate their apps, and I think that's great. I think the best way for them to do so is for them to connect with you on Google+.
Yes.
And let's make sure we get them the link for the next show, and we'll figure out when the next show is going to be.
Yeah.
And because I think, as you said, I think we want to get people on to show off their stuff. And
exactly.
Let's talk about, let's be able to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted some platform or some way where people can show their stuff, and then people can give feedback or whatever. I still don't know the format, and this is one of the attempts of trying to get to see what happens, right? I know this is not this broadcast is not perfect, but the thing is that I'm all about trying it out and seeing what happens. So yeah, I see voice XP is here. Yeah, okay, feature, yes. So did you see any other questions, Alan? I appreciate you looking at the chat room, because I have a lot of stuff going on here.
No,
I try to.
There was a great conversation, again, focused around what are we going to do about discovery, how do implicit intents work, what's the future of all of this. We've got experience with the web model. We've got experience with an app store model. What's the best? How do they scale?
Yeah.
I think that's going to be that's a good 2-hour discussion.
Sometime. Yeah. So how about we possibly save that for next time, and then we can go from there. I said this broadcast will be an hour and a half, so I think we're about reached that point. I appreciate all you guys that came and watched the broadcast and participated. One of the things I said, I really want this to be a community thing where you can come in and talk about what you're working on, and not just me here talking and not letting anybody else talk. I really want other people to talk, and I want to see their perspective. Until next time, I really enjoyed the chat with you guys, and yeah, thanks for watching.